Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about Never Change, which is a new comedy available on Hulu. In addition to that, we're going to talk about 6 trailers that came out this week, and we've also got some stuff to talk about that's coming up on the horizon in our On the Horizon segment. So let's start with that. On the Horizon. On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. The first note, because I didn't put any anime on the Horizon segment this week, but it's important to note that the new anime season is basically starting this coming week. So if you watch a lot of anime, check your Crunchyroll and High Dive or whatever anime streamer service you use, check your profiles and check what's coming up, because there's 100 new anime series or whatever, all debuting within the next couple of weeks. But on to the specific things that we're going to talk about for the On the Horizon segment. Adventure Time Side Quest, which is a spin-off series of Adventure Time, is coming on Monday, June 29th to Hulu and Disney+. Interestingly enough, Adventure Time it's a Warner-owned property. But Adventure Time is previously, it's always been on HBO Max. But this is coming to Hulu and Disney+. Very strange, but that's going to be on Monday, June 29th. Monopoly Star Wars Heroes vs. Villains is coming on Tuesday, June 30th to PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, Switch, and Switch 2. Elle, which is a prequel to Legally Blonde, is coming on Wednesday, July 1st to Amazon Prime. Enola Holmes 3, the movie, that's the Millie Bobby Brown Sherlock Holmes movie. It's got Henry Cavill play Sherlock Holmes in it, too. It's coming on Wednesday, July 1st to Netflix. X-Men 97 Season 2 drops on Wednesday, July 1st on Disney+. Rhythm Heaven Groove comes out on Thursday, July 2nd on the Switch. No Switch 2 version, just Switch, but it'll play on your Switch 2, as most Switch games do. There is also a demo currently available for that game. And Silo returns on Apple TV Plus on Friday, July 3rd. That is it for our On the Horizon segment, and now we're going to move on to On Beat, our news segment. On Beat. We've got 6 trailers we're going to go over, and we're going to start with probably the most controversial one, which is Klara and the Sun. This is the new movie from Taika Waititi, and Jenna Ortega stars in it. It's based on the book by Kazuo Ishiguro, and there's a lot of controversy about this one because Kazuo Ishiguro, he's this Japanese author, but he's British. Japanese ancestry, but he's British. And he writes very, classist literature, literature about, class struggles and basically the poor being abused by the rich and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And he's very, very famous for that. It's not hard sci-fi, but there's usually a sci-fi angle, but it's more like human drama with this really kind of fucked up gut punch that kind of goes along with it, that shows the weird class issues that are in play. That's kind of his style, his thing. He wrote Never Let Me Go, which was turned into a movie. If you've ever heard of that, that's one of his more famous ones. I have not read any of his books. I'm aware of who he is, though, because my sister, who, got her master's in English literature at Manchester in the UK, is a huge fan of his. He's one of her favorite authors. And I've kind of heard about him through her. First off, right off the bat, what did you think of this trailer? You don't have any experience. You've told me before you don't have any experience with any knowledge at all about this, even the existence of this book.
No,
just from a trailer perspective, what was this?
So my perspective was, okay, this is a Taika Waititi movie, starring Jenna Ortega. She's a robot adopted by a family. It looks like a dramedy. It looks like it's going to have the Taika Waititi comedy elements with a mix of drama, some dramatic moments. It's all brightly colored, brightly lit. the tone seems optimistic.
It has a whimsical appearance.
Yeah, the tone seems optimistic. It's not dour. It's like there's some dour things happening in this trailer, of course, but the tone always points optimistic. The main character is optimistic. The son is a focal point, and it's Taika Waititi. Taika Waititi usually does more upbeat type stuff, even when the material gets dark. You know, he doesn't let you wallow in darkness.
He's a more comedic director.
Yes.
So the thing to know about Kazuo Ishiguro, who wrote the book, and his style is that his stuff is very, very dark. There usually isn't much in the way of a sense of humor. That's where a lot of the controversy is coming for this, because people are like, Taika Waititi fucking ruining, a Kazuo book by making it all jokes and humor and stuff. It's kind of like similar to the kind of things you'd hear people say about the Marvelification of movies. Like, remember when Dungeons and Dragons, when the trailer came out for the more recent Dungeons and Dragons movie?
Yeah.
And people were like, they turned it into a Marvel movie. And like, that was kind of like the reaction people had, like in a negative context.
Yeah, in a negative context. Having watched that in a lot of ways, yes. But I also thought it benefited the movie. The movie was fun, and they were able to do these concepts without it being too boring or too nerdy for like a general audience. I thought it was a well done movie, but yeah.
I think it worked in the case of Dungeons and Dragons really well, because if you've ever actually played Dungeons and Dragons, they're usually like a really kind of fun, lighthearted experience, even if the story you're playing is dark, because you're with your friends drinking Mountain Dew and eating potato chips while you're playing a fucking game,
Right, yeah, exactly.
And so you're joking around with each other, you're
not trying to be like,
you're testing your dungeon master to see if he'll get mad at you if you do something silly,
You're not trying to be depressed. So, yeah.
So it's like, if you're gonna do Dungeons and Dragons, like, rather than be loyal to the lore, I think it makes more sense to be loyal to the experience.
Yeah, so, I agree with that.
So I totally, that was my perspective on, like, Dungeons and Dragons, which I thought was really good. I thought it was a really funny movie. Makes me kind of sad that it wasn't that successful, because I would have loved to have seen more, Even if it was like a completely different cast, just more in that kind of style, like more Dungeons and Dragons adventure movies. But in the case of this, what I'm going to call upon is Jojo Rabbit. So Jojo Rabbit was the movie that Taika Waititi did that won him some Oscars. It's kind of the one, besides his Marvel stuff, that he's most known for. And the thing about Jojo Rabbit is that it's a very lighthearted movie about a boy with an imaginary friend. And he has a quirky mom and all this stuff. It also just happens to take place in Nazi Germany. The boy in question is a Hitler Youth. His imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler. So it's this really whimsical, hilarious movie until it's not. And I think he masterfully handled it in Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit was also based off of a book, which, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't read the book that it's based on. I can't remember what it's called, but it's not called Jojo Rabbit, it's called something else. But I believe that book is also, like, very serious. Like, it's like an account of the atrocities and, like, the way Hitler Youth were brainwashed and stuff, rather than, like, a funny adventure. So that was also considered nothing like what he made the movie into.
Right, yeah.
But I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind humor being injected into things, even if they're super serious, because to me, that's reality. Even in the most desperate of times, in the most horrific moments of your life, there's going to be moments of levity and comedy. And those are probably going to be those moments that help you get through those times. I haven't read the book, Klara and the Sun, so I can't go like, oh, so clearly it would make sense on this. I could be completely wrong. I have no concept of that, because I haven't read the book. But I believe in Taika Waititi's ability to, like, thread tragedy with comedy.
Yeah.
In, like, an interesting way. And also, like, during the trailer, if you've watched the trailer before, try watching it again and listen to, like, very carefully in the audio mix. When the trailer is moving along and everything seems, like, happy and jaunty, there's this, like, weird kind of droning sound that's, like, building up pressure as the trailer is going on. And it's never so obvious that it's like, oh, since this is crazy, like, this is a weird mix or something, but it's there. And I think that that's him kind of hinting that there's, like, a darker underbelly to what you're seeing.
And also, like, people gotta remember, this is a trailer. This is meant to sell the movie.
This is not the finished product. This is just a preview.
This is a preview. So they're showing what they think will get people interested in the movie, without hopefully giving away too much of the movie. There are trailers that just give away the movie.
Yeah.
I don't think this is one of those trailers. I think they're holding things back and just giving you enough to make you think, oh, this is like Jenna Ortega. Oh, she's a robot, Taika Waititi. This looks like something interesting. And then when you're in the theater, they can throw those curveballs at you.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I honestly think it's better when you have really dark stories when there is comedy forward in those because it makes those horrific events have more impact. If everything's just down the whole time, then you don't really have the impact of like a fucked up situation happening. But if you have like a kind of light moments of levity and lighthearted moments and then you sprinkle tragedy into it, those moments of tragedy pop out. They hit harder.
Yeah, exactly.
So it looks good to me, but I haven't read the book, so it's not something I'm really interested. Yeah. This is one, like I mentioned, my sister's a huge fan of the author, so once I see this and my sister's seen it, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, like I said up front, I'm not familiar with the author, I'm not familiar with the book, the source material. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to how much of a travesty this trailer is.
I think one thing that you might have experience with the author, that I just thought of. You watched, I believe you watched it with me. I know I watched it, but I believe we talked about it because we did the one Advocates episode where I picked Akiru.
Oh, okay.
And we watched that. And then did you watch with me the British remake of Akiru that had like Bill Nye in it?
Oh, I think we did.
Yes. I believe we did that. The script for that of that British adaptation of Akiru was written by Kazuo Ishiguro.
Okay. I remember you mentioning that at the time, but like, I'm not going to remember that name.
Yeah. So that just kind of popped into my head. Like, that's like the one moment of experience you have with that author.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Y'all, now that I know that, this trailer is garbage.
This is trash.
Now that I have that little piece of context.
This is Western garbage.
Okay, so that's Klara and the Sun. The next trailer we're going to be talking about is The Dink. This is Jake Johnson's new movie. Ben Stiller's in it. Looks like a lot of comedy people in it. Looks funny. It's about an aggressive tennis player, kind of who's the fucking tennis player that used to McEnroe? It's almost like a McEnroe-esque tennis player.
Yeah.
Who, like a tennis player with like a temper, who's like very extreme. And then he like ends up having to play like pickleball.
Well, he gets injured.
Yeah.
And part of his therapy is playing pickleball.
It's just like a lower impact version of tennis.
Yeah, he can't play professional tennis, but he can play pickleball because it's lower impact. It's not as intense.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a retirement community for old folks, so he's mostly playing this pickleball against like old folks.
Yeah.
And the comedy is about that and him having to deal with this situation.
And him in particular, like I said, being kind of a more extreme player, taking from tennis, now having to play a less extreme version of tennis,
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. Yeah, it's by, Ben Stiller's producing it. He also has I'm assuming a very small role in this in the trailer. He's the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has a very large role in the movie, but he is producing it. Ben Stiller, of course, starred in and produced. I don't know if he directed off the top of my head, but the sports comedy Dodgeball, which is a classic at this point.
Yeah, if you can dodge a brick, you can dodge a ball.
You can dodge a ball. This doesn't look to be zany comedy like that movie was.
It's not as spoofy. Yeah, that was kind of a spoof. That was kind of spoof comedy.
That was spoof comedy. Yeah, this is more like situational comedy. To me, this seems more like the Danny McBride style comedy where you have an over-the-top character just put into situations.
But the rest of the characters are more normal, yeah.
Yeah, the rest of the characters are more normal, yeah.
You have a few other eccentric characters, but for the most part, it's that one character that's kind of the more oddball. Yeah, this is being directed by Josh Greenbaum, who I hadn't really heard of, but upon looking him up, I realized that he directed Strays, which was a really funny movie, and that he also is going to be directing, I believe, the new Spaceballs movie. So, yeah, that's good credentials, because Strays was really funny, and I'm kind of excited for Spaceballs, so that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, looks fun. I mean, I'll watch it.
Next, we got a double feature of trailers, because we got not one, but two Batman animated projects.
We got
the first one, before we go into what each is, the first one is a trilogy of animated movies, and the second one is season 2 of a TV series. So we're going to start with the trilogy, which is Batman Knightfall.
Which, by the way, this will be R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
So
the trailer makes abundantly clear by the visuals, yeah.
Yes. So they are definitely not going to be holding anything back here. Batman Knightfall, the title should be instantly familiar to fans of Batman comic books,
it was a very famous storyline, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very famous storyline in the early 90s. Basically, it was the Batman counterpart to the Death of Superman storyline, which, if you remember the Death of Superman, that made headlines, that made DC like oodles of money, and DC is arguably bigger than Superman, Batman.
In films, definitely bigger than Superman.
Yes. So they had to give him an equally epic storyline. And the concept was similar in that they weren't going to kill off Bruce Wayne Batman, but they were going to break him and put him out of commission.
So this has actually been very loosely adapted by Christopher Nolan's, like his third Batman movie. Very, very loosely adapted the whole like Bane breaking Bruce Wayne's back thing.
Yes, yes.
Like none of the rest of the stories in there, but just that one part.
Just that one part, yeah. Yeah, Christopher Nolan brought Bane in, and it was kind of like the understanding, if you're going to bring Bane into the movie, he's going to break Batman. But yeah, the basic storyline of Knightfall is this new villain. At the time, Bane was like a brand new villain for this. Obviously, it's so long ago now that Bane's become a regular part of Batman's Rogues Gallery, but he was new for the storyline. He comes in, and he comes up with this grand idea that he is going to not just defeat Batman by like directly fighting him, but he's going to exhaust him and then confront him when he can no longer fight. And he does this by basically freeing all the inmates from Arkham Asylum and letting them loose in Gotham. And Batman ends up having to go through this marathon of just going through his entire rogues gallery. And then at the end of it, when he's exhausted, Bane shows up and breaks his back, tosses him aside. At the same time, there's this vigilante, John Paul Valley, who's like very unstable. He basically, after Batman's taken off the board, he takes on the mantle of Batman and goes after Bane. And he proves to be too psychotic and unstable to actually be Batman, and then Bruce Wayne heals up and he ends up taking him out and reclaiming the mantle. But that's like the storyline in a nutshell.
Yeah. Great cast on this.
Yes.
So Anson Mount is playing the Bruce Wayne version of Batman. You might know him as Black Bolt from, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. He's also in what's the Star Trek series he's in? That's Brave New World, right?
Yeah, Brave New World. Yeah, he's Captain Pike in Brave New World. Yeah.
So you might know him from that. The coolest cast member, I believe, is probably Michael Mando.
Anson Mount is cool.
I'm saying like the coolest casting is Michael Mando as Bane.
Yeah, Michael Mando as Bane is an inspired choice, I think.
Yeah. Like he was in Better Call Saul, Orphan Black, and he's in he was in Spider-Man Homecoming, and he's going to be in the new Spider-Man movie as well.
Oh yeah. He's Scorpion. Don't know like how big of a role he has in that. There seems to be like a lot of characters in the new Spider-Man movie. There seems to be a lot happening. But yeah, he's Scorpion and Spider-Man. Yeah, I mean Michael Mando is having a good year. That's for sure.
Pablo Schreiber is playing John Paul Valley.
Yep.
Trying to think like what people nowadays. I think most people would know him from the Halo TV series. Oddly enough, he was in American Gods. So. He was like the Leprechaun in American Gods.
Oh, okay.
He was also, I believe, he was in both The Wire and Orange Is the New Black as well.
Okay,
I could be making a mistake there, but I believe he was in both of those as well.
David Dastmalchian as the Riddler.
That's another, man, he's just in everything.
He's showing up in everything.
We just saw him in One Piece Season 2,
Yeah, he was just in One Piece Season 2. Like, he's all over the place.
And he's been in multiple DC projects in live action. He was in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, he was in The Dark Knight. He was in The Suicide Squad.
Yeah. He's in Ant-Man on Marvel side, And I believe we talked on our podcast about Late Night with the Devil, right? Which he was also in.
Yeah, which was like an indie horror movie that he starred in.
And Murderbot. We talked about that last year, I think.
Oh, yeah, and he was in Murderbot, yeah. He just shows up in a lot of stuff. And they're all like very diverse projects, too.
He's also, have you seen his podcast?
Oh, yeah. I've seen it.
Him and his guests will sit in coffins.
Yeah.
I think it's called Grave Conversations or something like that. Yeah, it's funny. He's just kind of in everything. He's like the kind of guy that you like to see succeed, so that's cool.
Oh, 100%. I'm digging this cast. I like the storyline. The animation looks great. I'm excited for this. It looks good. I haven't been really genuinely excited for a DC animated for like a while. Makes me wish Marvel would do stuff like this. I think like Marvel would do an animated, I don't fucking know, Maximum Carnage movie.
Marvel just hasn't done that well with their animated stuff, with very few exceptions. DC's always done really well in animation.
Yes,
Marvel's had a few, like, X-Men, the original X-Men series plus 97, those are both great.
Yeah, really
some of the Spider-Man ones have been good. And besides that, most of them are kind of a miss.
Yeah, most of them are like, a miss. Yeah, like I haven't really been a fan of the Marvel animated stuff.
Yeah. So it might be a blessing in disguise that Marvel isn't doing this.
Right, yeah, true.
So we're going to move on to the next Batman animated project, which is DEI Man Caped Wokesader.
Oh my god.
No, it's Batman Caped Crusader Season 2.
I didn't know,
I
like,
say that, but I'm joking. I'm saying that, but I'm just joking. Like, I actually quite enjoyed Caped Crusader, the first season. We talked about that.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was
good. Like you said, it's not animated series level, but it's still pretty good. And it does have, like, animated series kind of vibes. It's kind of like, I think when it came out, it was not too off time-wise from when, like, X-Men 97 came out.
Right.
I think we talked about both of them together when we did the thing. We talked about them as like a collective thing.
Well, it was definitely like going for like those vibes because like it is like, it's developed by Bruce Timm. It was like one half of the creative team on the original Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
It was definitely going for like those vibes. I just don't think it quite landed or it quite captured that. But
it was good. It had a lot to live up to and it didn't quite hit that.
Yes.
But the thing that's interesting about it is that, like I said, X-Men 97 and Caped Crusader came out not too far apart from each other. Because they were both kind of continuations of previous series that also were not too far away from each other.
They were definitely like callbacks to their popular predecessors.
X-Men 97 is like a direct continuation.
It's a direct continuation, yes.
That's Caped Crusader is not. Caped Crusader
they're both calling back. They're both appealing to nostalgia for like 90s animated series, right?
Yeah. Like Caped Crusaders is not a continuation of the animated series. It's like a fresh kind of start, but it definitely takes a lot of like the visual cues, specifically the visual cues, from like Batman the Animated Series. Just like
the Art Deco,
1950s, Art Deco kind of styling.
Yes.
That kind of look is in place. The character designs look a little bit different, but also a little bit the same, I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people got pissed off that they gender flipped the Penguin or other things. I thought there were some certain aspects of that series that were like really good, like really interesting takes on it. And I mentioned before the show to you, like we had talked about during the podcast how we both were really into the idea of like Bruce Wayne is just like an asshole. Like, he really kind of screwed over some of his own friends and stuff because he just was so concerned with being Batman that he just kind of was more concerned with, like, using, when his friends happened to have information, like, using them for their information than he was even for their own safety. And I really liked that aspect. I thought it was interesting. It really kind of played on the parallel of, like, Batman with his villains. We talked about it at the time as Batman was kind of like Two-Face in a sense. He's Batman and Bruce Wayne and like these two different personalities, and you'd kind of see,
I liked how
even when he was Bruce Wayne, you'd see him slipping into a little bit of Batman at times and stuff.
Yeah, I liked how they were like drawing on that parallel.
Yeah, it was, I thought that was really interesting when for the show. That was probably the coolest part of the whole show. That season ended.
Yeah.
Season 1 ended with like a little teaser reveal of the Joker. And that seems to be kind of the primary big bad of this season from the way it's playing out, from what we've seen in the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Joker was going to come into it.
Oh yeah,
sooner rather than later, right? Of course.
Yeah,
but
this
you don't really do Batman without doing the Joker, yeah.
But this played into it, whereas, like, he had, like, the tiniest of cameos in season 1.
Right, oh yeah.
So...
Because it was the kind of thing, like, they kind of want to, want to, like, lead with that, because that's a big thing. Same thing Nolan did. Nolan didn't make the first Batman movie he made about the Joker. He led into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had that teaser at the end of Batman Begins, and then he made the second movie about the Joker.
Yes. So Batman Caped Crusader Season 2, I think it looks good. I'm excited for it. Hopefully they improve where they didn't do as well in the first season and continue to nail it where they did nail it with the first season. So I'm glad it continued because it's one of those series that kind of came out and I felt like when we talked about it, we were the only people in the world that had seen it.
Right, yeah.
Because I literally just never saw anybody else talk about that show.
I did see any conversation. Yeah, it's interesting too because it wasn't that long ago. I was kind of like, it came up or something. I was kind of thinking, damn, that show, they never did season 2 or anything. And I guess, oh yeah, they are.
Yeah. It's interesting because the only thing I ever heard, the only discussion I ever heard of that show was people who hadn't watched it that were complaining about the penguin being gender bent and stuff.
Oh yeah. But it's like, it's the whole thing. It's like, okay, but if you accept that this is like a totally different continuity, then who cares?
Yeah. And that's a comic book thing. That's like a staple of comic books. Now they just say it's a multiverse reality.
Yeah.
Like in the current comic book.
Yeah,
pantheon.
exactly. It's a multiverse, which, by the way, DC was the first to come up with the concept of the multiverse and, like, popularize that, so.
Mm-hmm. But there's DC and Marvel had so much crossover with talent.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Darkseid predates Thanos, right? But they're both the same guy that made both of them.
It's funny because, like, initially, like, DC came up with the multiverse concept purely just to, like, reintroduce their Golden Age heroes into the Silver Age and to, like, print comics featuring the original Green Lantern and all their, like, 40s and 50s heroes in the 60s. That was the whole point. They came up with Earth 2 because it's like, oh, okay, yeah, the Jay Garrick Flash and the Alan Scott Green Lantern, they live on Earth 2.
And isn't that kind of how all, like, the innovations in comic books happened? Just looking for a way to, like, monetize their past successes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, Caped Crusader, I think it looks good. I liked the first season, like I said. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't as good as, like, X-Men 97, but I still liked it. Next, we got a trailer. We're continuing on with animated stuff. We got a trailer for the long-awaited The One Piece. So this is the, like, reboot of One Piece.
This is the anime. Reboot. Yeah, this is the anime, like, remake of One Piece. I don't know if it's, like, a reboot, because, like, they're not changing the story or anything. This is, like, literally,
I heard they actually were making some changes. From what I've seen, I don't see any significant changes.
From what I read, from what I heard, I don't think, like, they're making, like, significant changes. They might cut some things. They might pare some content down.
Yeah,
I don't
pacing.
think, like, for pacing, but I don't think the intent is to make, like, any changes to the established narrative. Like, really, the point of this is to have a more modern version of One Piece with better animation, and that this could be, like, a jumping on point for new fans.
Yeah, because the One Piece anime is getting close to, like, a 30-year anniversary from when that started, so...
Right, yeah, exactly.
It's been going for a long time. It's well over 1,000 episodes.
And what's interesting is, apparently they're not going to cover a lot of ground. I need to double check this, but I think they said, so like season 1 is going to be 6 episodes, and it's only going to go up to Baradier.
Mm-hmm.
So season 1 is going to end while they're still in the East Blue.
Yeah. It sounds like it's going to pace quite a bit faster than the original anime, but maybe slower than the live action series. So it's going to kind of fall somewhere between those, probably closer to the live action series. I think that's also where we're probably going to see changes. Because one of the things that was interesting, we talked about this when we talked about like season 2 in particular of the live action One Piece series, was that they started like going, okay, well, canonically, this one character was actually there when these characters were. Like Oda's confirmed that ages ago, but he really wasn't in the manga or the anime when that happened. But why can't he be? So like you'd see characters like Bartholomew just show up hundreds of chapters before his actual manga debut or something. Just because, why not? The series is long running. It's been going for a long time. There's characters that Oda has created and inserted in that tie back to other characters and have other moments that connect to them. So why not exploit that? You know, now that you have the advantage of hindsight. I think we're probably going to see similar stuff to that happening in this anime. I don't expect there to be like significant changes. Maybe like brief additions, cameos, that kind of stuff. Same kind of stuff we got in the live action series.
Okay. So I was looking into it. I was not that far off. It's 7 episodes. Mm-hmm. And episode 7 ends with Luffy's first encounter with Sanji.
So yeah, that's the, Bartier, the restaurant, yeah.
Yeah, so.
But yeah, I mean, it looks good. Like, this looks fantastic.
Yes.
Like, visually, it looks beautiful.
Visually, it looks beautiful.
It has basically the entire cast is returning, the voice cast for the Japanese version.
Yes, yeah, they got the voice cast for the Japanese version. It'll be interesting, because I don't know if they're also getting the voice cast from the English version back for this.
Well, there's different voice casts for it. There's different English versions.
Yeah, that's true.
So hopefully they don't get it. There's one specific voice cast that I hope they don't bring back.
It's interesting because I heard for the English version of Joy Boy, they got Luffy's original English actor for Joy Boy, and that's fun. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be a long-ass time before we see Joy Boy in this series.
Yeah. But at least this series probably won't have any filler, which is going to be...
Yeah.
The original anime series is plagued with filler episodes, so...
And again, this provides like a new anime jumping on point for people who are new fans for watching the live-action One Piece.
That includes you!
Very well. Yeah, that has done very well on Netflix. This gives people 7 episodes of an anime to watch in opposition to 500 or how many there are.
What if the English voice cast for this was the live action cast?
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be crazy.
That'd be a funny way to kind of carry on the legacy of it. But yeah, I don't think they'll do that because they're going to be too busy.
Yeah, they're going to be like really busy. I don't think that's going to happen.
And the last story we got is another animated project, and that is The Ribbon Hero. This is another Netflix anime project, and this is loosely based on the Osamu Tezuka manga Princess Knight. So those who don't know Tezuka, he did Astro Boy. And what's particularly interesting about this is the parallels this has to Pluto. So we talked about Pluto on the podcast. You really liked it. I liked it a lot too. I remember us being very happy with it when we talked about it. The manga for Pluto was a loose adaptation of a specific story arc from Astro Boy. And The Ribbon Hero, I don't think there's like a manga that The Ribbon Hero is directly based on, like the way Pluto was. But this series, or this movie itself for The Ribbon Hero, is like a very loose adaptation of Princess Knight, which was, again, one of his like most famous works. It's also something that kind of predates and kind of set a lot of the tropes and standards that ended up becoming the genre of Mahou Shoujo, which is like magical girl, so like Sailor Moon type stuff. Now, this is not a Mahou Shoujo series in that sense. Like, the character doesn't use magic, she has like a sword, stuff like that. It's not like a magical girl, but it kind of established many of the tropes that would later become the magical girl genre of anime. So It's kind of like, it's just interesting, the parallel of this and Pluto, of these being like these two loose adaptations of Tezuka's work being done as like Netflix originals. So I remember when we talked about Pluto, I was saying like, I want more of this. Give us more like really high quality anime, from Netflix.
I watched Pluto, and I thought, my impression was like, this is a masterpiece. This is going to be, people are going to talk about this for ages. I don't know if that actually like ended up happening. I don't see people talking about it much. My impression at the time was like, I was watching a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if the Ribbon Hero kind of lives up to that, so.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But that is it for our news segment, and that leaves only full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we're going to be talking about Never Change, which is a new comedy movie that's original for Hulu. Didn't have a theatrical release. It dropped just on Hulu as a Hulu original. We talked about the trailer for this a few weeks ago, and we were kind of excited because it was like playing with tropes in like a really interesting way. And we were like, okay, this is like a funny way to take on like teen movie tropes, and like in a fresh, unique way.
Or at least we thought it was going to be playing with tropes.
So we both thought that was going to be the case. Then we watched the movie, realized after watching the movie how low the Rotten Tomatoes score is. That could have given us a clue.
Yeah, I did not look at the Rotten Tomatoes score before.
But we went in kind of blind besides the trailer, basically. And yeah, as Will already alluded to, not the best movie. I would argue there's a lot of good ideas in it. It just doesn't nail the landing. It just doesn't get the execution.
Yeah, it doesn't nail the execution. The whole setup is we're introduced to these 30, 40-something-year-old people, and it has like a fun introduction because for the core people, it gives like a little bio for each person. I thought
it's so funny because that whole scene was good. Like the whole opening scene introducing them was good. It also was like really quickly paced, and then the pacing for the movie just fell off a cliff.
Yeah, the pacing for the rest of the film just falls off a cliff. It does not maintain that energy for long after that opening sequence for some reason. It follows that. It goes to a bar, and the bar is like kind of important because one of the people we're following owns the bar. But, like, that's the first scene, and I kind of, like, just starts dragging from there. It's like, oh, okay. We're spending a lot of time in this bar before, like, any high school stuff happened.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This feels like it could have used about 20 minutes trimmed off of it, and that's only, like, the beginning of its problems. But, yeah, I don't want to recap the whole movie. We could just kind of go the general premise. The general premise is for like a new educational bill passes. And as a side effect of that bill passing, this one high school that got closed for 2 weeks all the kids have to go back to school and complete those 2 weeks, even though they're in their 30s now.
Yeah.
That's the premise. And so what we saw in the trailer, it looked like there was going to be all these kind of like fun tropes, like the, guy throwing a rager because his parents were out of town, but then like taking him in this weird direction.
Yeah, so that premise has like a lot of fertile ground for comedy, and it doesn't like really use that premise very well.
Yeah.
It's like, man, but it's one of those zany comedies. So it's got like a lot of gags. It's got like a lot of really eccentric characters. Mm-hmm. There are some jokes that land. There are some running gags that are good. There are some that are just like weird and don't really land that well.
There are some gonzo bits. They don't always work. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's such a mixed bag.
Oh, yeah. And unfortunately, there are certain characters that they want to have be like an emotional center, which I don't think works because
it's too gonzo to try to make an emotional center.
yeah. So these characters are too quirky. Like, there's this whole relationship drama with this girl, Katie Cartwright, who is like the school rebel and the school jock named Sunny Football. But they make Sunny Football too weird of a person to like be sympathetic and don't have this relationship and like even be believable.
I just thought, like, we were talking before the podcast about some of the scenes that were funny that landed, and I just thought about the one of him, and he was in like a self-help group or something, and then as he was leaving, he just started taking like all the donuts one at a time.
He started taking all the donuts.
Which I thought that was funny because it's like a perfect example of somebody being selfish and not even realizing it.
There was another joke in that scene, which like I thought was pretty funny, where he talks about he invented something called towel pants made of towels. Like, so I actually sold one of them, and like the guy leading the group, played wonderfully by Joe Pera, by the way, is wearing them. He's the one who bought them. He
pours like coffee on his seat and sits on it.
It says they're really great.
There's little moments here and there where it's like, these are moments to a better movie that didn't exist. you know?
There's this whole thing like where there's like the super dorky guy and his dorky friends, and they have a crush on Katie and they're going to compete for her affection. This doesn't actually ever go anywhere, by the way, but just FYI, it doesn't go anywhere. They don't do much with this whole plot thing.
Well, they kill 2 of the 3.
And they kill off 2 of the 3, but it's funny because like the scene they're introduced, they're in the diner, they're drinking coffee, and every time they take a sip, they're like, fuck, because it's so hot. So like they're just burning themselves. They do this like multiple times in the scene, and I thought that was just like a hilarious bit because like, that's pretty funny. And then there's like a scene not long after that where like it goes back to the bar and you see that same nerdy character like drinking a beer and like he says fuck like it burned him, even though like it's clearly like a cold beer he has. They continue the gag for like one scene there, and I thought, okay, like there are moments where like this movie can be clever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like this isn't a complete fuck up of a movie. You can see the little like hidden gems that could have been a better movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have Topher Grace plays a theater teacher / serial killer.
It's interesting too because like I had difficulty finding this movie. I talked about this before the podcast. I'm not going to go into this too much, but just say like I was trying to like find the movie to watch and I couldn't remember the title of the movie. So like I was having a little difficulty finding it because Hulu, I think, rightfully like hid it from my view. So like I had trouble finding this on Hulu. So when I did finally find this movie and I started it, it opens with the news report about the serial killer. Going into like the serial killer, what the serial killer did, to a point where like I was confused and I was like, wait, did I start the right movie? I thought this was about high school. They're talking about a serial killer.
It kind of, to me, it's almost like the Scranton Strangler from The Office.
Yes.
I thought it was just going to be a background thing like that.
Yeah.
Like where there was nothing's ever going to play into it. It's just going to be like this weird background gag or something. But no, it actually ended up being part of something. And it's like a funny idea that this like theater teacher wrote this play way back in the day that was basically his confession to all the crimes. The play never like,
because the crimes happened in 2007, and he wrote the play in 2008.
Yeah.
And then it never got to be performed because of the
tornado that hit the school, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were bringing it back. So that's like, it's a really funny idea, but it just doesn't land like at all.
No.
And it's like there's so many moments where you can go like, okay, you can see there was like a funny idea in there. You can see this is probably what interested Topher Grace in becoming involved in this project, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then it just does not work. It just feels like a liability more than a help to the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, yeah, it's another bit that probably sounded funny on paper. Probably could have been like really funny if it was done differently.
Yeah.
But does not quite land in the actual film.
I think that might be part of the problem, is that there are a lot of actually good ideas in this movie, and a lot of them they kind of present them and then they don't go anywhere because they're working on something else. So it's like a lot of setup for gags that don't necessarily pay off that well.
Right.
I think that might be kind of the big problem here, is just like, I think this gag played out as its own movie might have worked better. But because it's like this little tiny part of this bigger movie, it just doesn't really pay off right. And it's just kind of just there. And
to be fair, like the entire movie is kind of like all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. Like there's a lot of ideas that you could like break out from this movie and make like a whole movie about that idea. And it could be kind of funny, but like they're just kind of dropped here. Like, oh, here's another thread. And then it's just dropped and it's abandoned. And then they'll eventually get back to it by the end of the movie, but like in a really unsatisfying or uninteresting way.
And it's weird too, because the movie follows multiple main protagonists. There's not like any one character I could point to and say, oh, that's the main character. But there's like at least like three that are like more important than anybody else. There's the whole storyline with the relationship between Katie Cartwright and Sonny Football. There's Ted Mayo, the bar owner who's like really struggling to pass school.
Amelia, the class president.
Class president, yeah. They focus on those characters pretty much more than any of the other characters in the movie. Yeah, I would also say Curtis Elridge, the guy who sees aliens, but he ends up getting wrapped more into Amelia's storyline rather than like being his own protagonist, even though he's kind of introduced that way.
Yeah, it's weird. Like he's introduced like he's got this own story. His introduction is kind of funny. It's kind of like, okay, this is going to be interesting where they're going to go with this. And then he gets completely wrapped up into somebody else's story. That's all you really see of him through like 90% of the movie. And then at the very end, they throw back his old thing. And then once they do that, they completely lose track of the other story that they had put him in.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of weird. But that aside, like, where I was going with this is, even though we have that, and we have these focus characters, the movie still seems to struggle to even focus on them, or the movie seems to, like, lose interest in their stories. Because, like, we kind of drift in and out of them, you know, at random. And it's kind of like, I don't know, they don't seem to get the focus that you would think.
Yeah, I agree. This is a movie it's just not good. Yeah. But like you could see the bones of something that could have been good. And maybe not one thing, maybe like several things that could have been good. But it just never comes together. And that's its biggest sin. That's its biggest problem is it never comes together. It never uses things correctly. It'll introduce a kind of a funny idea and then it never explores it. And then it wraps it up at the end of the movie like it's nothing.
Yeah. Kind of like, oh shit, we brought this up. We kind of have to resolve this. Yeah.
And then there's like other parts of the movie that are just so fucking slow and tedious but then there's and boring. Other things and that it's like, cut that shit out.
But then there's other things that are introduced that like don't go anywhere. the three nerds, like, two of them end up dying. One of them very abruptly at the end of the movie when his head explodes, like, out of nowhere.
Just because the girl talks to him, the girl that they're obsessed with.
Their whole thing, like, that goes nowhere. They don't do anything with that until the very end of the movie where they had her, like, actually talk to him. They have them interact for, like, one scene, and that's the last scene of the movie. And I guess, like, that wraps this up because we forgot to do anything with this. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the movie is kind of all over the place. It's a mess. It is as big of a mess of a movie as I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But it's like I said, what's so sad about it is that there's funny stuff in it. There's lots of funny ideas actually in it.
Yeah, there's lots. Yeah.
That's just what makes it such a shame. And it's a pretty good cast too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very good cast. They got some, like, really talented comedians.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like me and my friends used to go to Anime Expo every year. And one year we decided to do the Masquerade, which is like where, everybody cosplays and then you do it on stage. But we wanted to do like a skit. And so we got together and we wrote the skit like the night before the Masquerade. We just were like up really late at night. Like we had a bunch of us kind of sitting on a couch in the hotel lounge of this hotel/convention center. And we were like writing a skit. And there were like funny ideas in there. There were some ideas that just didn't really go anywhere because we wrote the script the night before the Masquerade when we're like in a hotel lobby. So it's like we just didn't have a lot of time to work things out and cut things that didn't work and stuff. So there was stuff that was funny and there was stuff that just was kind of just there.
Right.
You know? But that was just a fucking masquerade. That's all that was. So it wasn't like a big deal. This is like, that's what this makes me think of. It makes me think like, oh, you had a group of talented comedians that probably came up together. Maybe they were like in Groundlings or something together, some kind of comedy group together. And they said, well, let's make this movie. We've got some sway now. Some of us have kind of taken off. So we got enough sway. We can put a movie together. Let's do that.
Well, clearly
and then they all just started throwing out ideas and then they just said, okay, let's just do it.
Well, clearly the germ was like somebody said, what if high school, but everybody is 40 years old?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, yeah. And it's like, okay, that sounds funny on the surface. That sounds like you could do a lot with that. You break that out. And I think
it sounds like too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing,
Yeah, too many cooks. I think what happened was there were too many ideas and they couldn't, for whatever reason, they couldn't like pare them down. Or they just thought, I don't know, doing every idea. And I think if they pared it down to, okay, what are like the best ideas and tried to write a story, it just feels like it needed
quality control.
Yeah, quality control. It needed editing. It needed like an editorial voice.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, they needed to cut at least 20 minutes out of the movie, and that was only the beginning of the problems.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so that's it. That's never changed. It's on Hulu. You can watch it. I don't know why you would after listening to our conversation about it. But if
you're curious, there are better things you can do with 2 hours of your life, but
if you're curious,
do you.
So that is it for this week's podcast. Next week, we're going to be talking about another comedy on Hulu. Hopefully this one turns out to be better. It's got a higher Rotten Tomatoes score. I stumbled upon that when I noticed the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie after I saw it. So, but we're going to be watching Pizza Movie, which stars Gaten from Stranger Things.
Yeah, I love Gaten on the podcast, so that's good.
Yeah. It's like an homage to stoner comedies, kind of, it seems to be.
Yes.
And so that's what we're going to be talking about next week, so stay tuned for that. Watch it alongside us if you feel like it. It's on Hulu. Pizza Movie is the name of it. But until next week, thank you everyone for listening. You can follow me on Blue Sky and Twitter. My name is @Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will on those platforms. He is @FoxelHero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.blogspot.com. If you go to our website and open up the container story for any of our podcast episodes and scroll down to the bottom paragraph, you'll find all the relevant links to our SoundCloud page, our RSS feed, all that stuff's there. You can subscribe to this podcast to your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts, and the entire backlog of this podcast is available on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out as well. Until next week, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.